You mentioned Gareth Southgate and how he's perceived now at the end of this run that they're on. The question I've asked this week is whether he's been vindicated, not just in the fact that he's now finished in a semifinal, a final, a quarterfinal, and now another final at major tournaments, but also his approach, which is we're going to concede as few chances as possible and hopefully as few goals as possible, executed set pieces, give our creative players a platform to win the game for us. It seems to be effective in a major tournament context, even if the English public and the media have never been in love with it, even if people have found the games to be a slog, which particularly in the group stage they were. He seems to get deep into these competitions at a very consistent clip.
Yes, and me and you spoke before the tournament started, didn't we? And I said I was a huge Southgate fan. I think everything he's done, okay, you can level some things at him about the football not being attractive. But I think by and large, he's been a brilliant England manager across 3 tournaments. This is the first tournament where I've watched England, especially in the groups. I was thinking, what is going on here? I am finding this incredibly hard work. And I started to doubt him and be a bit more critical of him than I would normally be. But as it's gone on and you look back, I think I said to you when we last spoke, the team that plays swashbuckling football very rarely wins the tournament. Now, obviously, that could happen this time because Spain have obviously got a chance of winning this tournament. But, over the years, I don't remember watching loads of teams, except for maybe a couple of Brazil teams, and thinking, this team is brilliant at what they do. It has been teams that are hard to beat. And if you've watched France, which I'm sure you have, they're a tougher watch than England at times. And England haven't been brilliant up until the last few games. So I think Gareth Southgate is vindicated. At the end of the day, England have done nothing in my lifetime and since he's been in charge. And this is the second final they've been to. The earliest knockout they've had is the World Cup in Qatar, where they got knocked out in the quarterfinals. Before he came in, we were getting knocked out by Iceland. So I think you look at Gareth Southgate and you have to say he's been a success. Early on in the tournament, which feels a long time ago now, he's got fans throwing beer at him. He's got England to the final. So I think you have to give him a huge amount of credit. The players are fiercely loyal to him as well. They all back him when they speak about him. And, I don't think they're giving that lip service. I think they genuinely mean it. I think they know what Southgate's done for this nation. England have had really good footballers before and toiled at tournaments and got knocked out early and not done what we thought they could do. People say, I've said this so many times, people say England are where they are in spite of Southgate. That simply isn't true. Another final, and I've got to coming up against a really good team, and they might lose again. But my dad was alive when England won the World Cup in 1966. He had to wait till 2021 to see England in a final again. It's now 2024, and he's seeing them in a third final in his lifetime. My dad's 74, so I think we can safely say Gareth Southgate is one of the best England managers that there's ever been.
Gareth Southgate spoke at one point in this tournament about the entitlement we have as a nation, meaning the English, when it comes to international football. Is there anything to that? Because he seems to be permanently, embroiled in this maelstrom of hate and derision and criticism. And yet, is there another England manager that compares to his record outside of Alf Ramsey?
Not for me, not anything I can remember. Terry Venables had Euro 96, which was a really, really good tournament. The first tournament I remember watching England in. It was a fantastic tournament, and England were unlucky in that tournament to go out on penalties in the semi-final. Even talking about penalties, I've seen England win 1 penalty shootout in my lifetime until Gareth Southgate came in. The way they took the penalties the other day was like nothing I've ever seen. Absolute precision, absolute confidence. Maybe not. There weren't even some of them. First 11 players just coming on and taking penalties for England like they've been doing it all their life. I think he's done so much good. A lot of what he actually says does make sense. I've not agreed with everything he's done this tournament for sure, and in previous tournaments as well, he's done things that have definitely frustrated me. But if you look at it, if you look where they are, you have to say, other than Sir Alf Ramsey, he is the best manager. There's no getting away from that now. What he's done across 4 tournaments, I guess he's had that longevity as well, and certain things come with being given time and having longer periods. I don't even think this is the. Look at England's defence. There's players missing. Luke Shaw's only just come back into the team. England have done this with a patched up defence all the way through the tournament. Kieran Trippier has been playing left back throughout the entirety of the tournament. Midfield lieutenants that he's had previously aren't there. We're blessed with a phenomenal attack, and you're right to say, they've defended well and relied on moments. That is what's happened, and they've left it very, very late in certain games. The Slovakia game, England so close to going out in the last 16 to Slovakia, and that would have been right down there with Iceland. But they just found a way, and I feel like the confidence has gained as they've gone through the tournament. And actually going into this final now, I feel like Southgate's in a pretty decent place, and the players are in a decent place as well. But saying all that, if they lose, they'll all get hammered, because that's just the way football is in this country.
Yeah, I sometimes think people have almost a delusion about major tournament football. Maybe some people attribute it to that famous Spain team that had such a defined style of play, although they still won a lot of 1-0 matches. But usually it comes down to winning 1-0 or 2-1 and a bit of luck, a refereeing decision, a moment of brilliance from your standout players like Jude Bellingham and Bukayo Saka. That's sort of the recipe. I know that I keep beating a dead horse about this, but people seem to think that, did England fans think that Gareth Southgate's England were going to go out and tiki-taka everyone to death, and it was going to be this beautiful Brazil 1970 exhibition? I really don't know what people expected to happen.
No, even when I think back to Spain, when they won the Euros, when they won the World Cup, they did play. They weren't brilliant. They kept the ball well, but I don't remember them. I don't remember them being absolutely brilliant. They weren't like Pep's Barcelona. But I think when people look back, they tend to think of Spain as being like that with that team. But it really wasn't like that at all. They won that final against Germany in the Euros, 1-0 to Torres. Look, just one moment. That's so often what it is. And then the World Cup in 2010, Iniesta, I think it was in extra time. Iniesta scores in extra time, and they win 1-0 again. You've relied on a moment. That's what international tournament football is. I don't remember, as I said earlier, really, maybe 2002 Brazil, maybe 1998 Brazil, who ended up getting beat by France in the final anyway. No team has ever really done that. The Germany team that did they beat Brazil 6-1 or 6-0?
7-1, yeah.
7-1. Was that semi-final as well?
Yeah, one of the great tragedies in Brazilian history, yeah.
Yeah, but that doesn't happen. That isn't what happens in tournament football. It did that day, but it probably won't happen again for another 25 years. So the way England have won games is generally how knockout games are won. There can be cagey affairs, there can be tight affairs, and if you've got good players or good attacking players and a solid defence, you've got a good chance of winning games, because you will have a moment of magic from someone.